So when I studied journalism, so that's like 15 to 20 years ago or something like that,
Mm.
there was the internet was just sort of coming up, and internet journalism was just sort of starting to come up, and especially like bloggers at that time and blogs that were starting to compete with old media, so to say. And within the sort of school of journalism where I studied, that was sort of frowned upon in a way, or not seen as something positive necessarily. And my sort of graduating thesis kind of took the opposite approach in a way, where what I was arguing at that time was that I thought that the alternative media that were sort of upcoming could be a way to be sort of a check on the mainstream media. So in the same way that journalism or the media itself is seen as a check on politics, for example, there should also be a check on journalism. So my vision was sort of that the alt media, alternative media bloggers could be sort of a check on that. Like if media aren't doing their job or aren't focusing on a specific topic enough, then there was now more room to sort of correct that in a way, right? Now, fast forward 20 years later, I do think that's partly happening. Like there's some of that, but it's also becoming so sort of dispersed. That's the right English word, right? That everyone's sort of finding their own niche, their own thing that they like, and their own websites and their own perspective. And there isn't even sort of this single thing anymore. There isn't even this mainstream anymore. Like the mainstream is kind of disappearing. So it's not. It's less and less serving as a check on the mainstream, but just the mainstream is sort of dissolving into all these separate islands. I don't know if that's only a good thing. I'm really not sure if that's only a good thing. So if you don't mind me, I'll just keep rambling for a bit.
Mm. Mhm.
All right. So in the Netherlands, this actually was the case for a while. So that we called that the verzuiling, and so the country was really divided in the sense that so there were the Protestants, there were the Catholics, and I think just the non-religious, and they had their own newspapers, they had their own schools, they had their own churches, obviously, and it was really a very disconnected society that didn't communicate with each other, and there was something dysfunctional about that. And then with the emergence of the television, there was such a popular medium that people from these different parts started to watch the same things. So really, for the first time, they started hearing each other's information and seeing each other's point of view, and there was sort of a unifying aspect to that, where everyone sort of found a sort of common ground truth. And I do think that's also healthy. I think it's healthy if people can find a common truth that everyone can sort of agree on and base their policies on, and sort of, you have to run a society in a way, and you have to run a society, you have to live together, so it's kind of good if you have that. And now we're sort of seeing the opposite happening, where everyone's finding their own island, and we're seeing the early stages of that. I don't know where that's going to lead. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing all across the board. I think there's downside to that. It's good if people hear each other's perspectives and opinions and keep talking and settle on some sort of common truth.